So this is Steve, and I'm here with John Shoaff, Councilman John Shoaff. We appreciate your time today, John. Today you filed for re-election as an at-large city councilman. How are things going?
Well, they're going very smoothly at the moment, and I am refiling. I've found over the years that a lot of people, I think, have kind of looked to me for support of their views, which I do find my views are widely shared by our citizens, and I feel it's some responsibility to continue to support those as best I can.
Mm-hmm. And what do you feel are some of your accomplishments in your time on city council?
Well, I've been focused on a couple of things. One is the efficient expenditure of funds. Another is maintaining as best we can, even enhancing the quality of life in some of our fine neighborhoods and newer neighborhoods. All the neighborhoods are important. And in turn, those support the hopes for revitalization of downtown Fort Wayne, which continues to be an important priority of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And as to what I have done, I like being at large. I can go, in a sense, anywhere in the city where I'm called to help give help on an issue. Rudisill Boulevard is undergoing some changes. I was helpful there over the years in resolving the conflict between them and the Taylor University. Of course, unfortunately, we lost the university, but now some important work is being done on the avenue. We actually saved the entrance to Forester Park from what would have been some very ill-advised changes that would have turned the entrance into a large football-sized parking lot. We didn't need that. And those are kind of things that you get where you get involved with the neighbors. They take some effort. It's the reason I'm in office. Currently, I'm very concerned about what's happening out on State Street. There are neighborhoods threatened. One of them threatened very seriously by this straightening project, which is totally unnecessary. It was a dream that goes back to regional planners, which they came up with about 30 years ago. Frankly, I think the kind of thinking they were doing then is very outdated now. Has been proved to be counterproductive to the attractiveness and prosperity of cities. So I've been working hard with some of the neighbors there who've called me and said, John, take a close look at this one.
Mm-hmm. One of the ideas that you've talked about many times at the table at the city council meetings is the idea that we should get away from bonding for seated. Talk to me just a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm very glad you brought it up. When I said I'm concerned about efficient use of funds, that's very much at the top of my list. I think we've simply overused bonding, and the mere fact that we have the bonding capacity is not an argument for using it. I think the city should proceed about the way most of us do in running our own households. We buy a home that we can afford with one chunk of money, so we have a mortgage. We maybe buy a large purchase like a car with a loan. But for our operating expenses, I think all of us live by our income as it comes in. And the minute you start borrowing heavily to support your operating budget, you're going to get yourself in trouble because you're suddenly spending 1.5 to almost 2 times as much as you need to for basic expenditures, because the interest costs over a period of years add up to almost to multiples of the basic amount. The city does the same thing, and we've frequently had projects or lists, the really laundry lists of projects that come to us. They're packaged as bond issues. The city's gotten in the habit of finishing off paying one bond issue and initiating another. Well, we should get a little bit ahead of the game. We should start paying for things as we go. It might, by the way, be an excellent way of using some of the $75 million that we're looking at, which is something that has to be treated with a great deal of care. And actually, when you think about it, or look at this, start crunching some numbers, it's not the huge windfall that it may appear to be. Yeah, I think it should be used very judiciously over time to decrease our cost of doing business.
Would you be in favor of setting up, I don't want to say endowments or foundations, but setting up some sort of a way that the proceeds from interest could be spent rather than the actual principal for some of that settlement money? Do you think that's the better way to go?
Well, you're talking about, I think there are 2 things implicit there, and I wouldn't say use all of the money that way. If you, say, invested it all and felt free to take out 5% against the principal, you're looking at $750,000, $1.5 million a year, which suddenly looks a whole lot less, like a whole lot less that 75 million. But it might be an intelligent, very sobering way of looking at what this money is really worth. And suppose you did have $1.5 million. Then the second part of your suggestions, I take it, is would we dedicate some of that to specific uses? Now, we do have some specific needs in this community that we've got to be very careful to protect. We've got to maintain the quality of our infrastructure. And that means all of our utilities. It also means all of our buildings. Parks Department alone has 120 buildings, which it must maintain if we're going to have attractive and useful parks. Our tree inventory over the years has gone drastically down, and of course more and more we learn the real environmental as well as aesthetic value of trees for our city. So it's actually, we shouldn't be just maintaining what we have, we should be increasing it, and we should be facing head on the threat of the abundant ash borer. So these are all ways that these monies we're talking about should be used, and I agree with you up to a point. I think some of that we might do very well to set aside, treat it as an investment, a capital, or a principal rather. And some of it we maybe should use directly. But even if we use it directly, it should be for the purpose of capital improvements, not operating expenditures, or it should be used as replacement money for these unnecessary bond issues.
Sure. What do you hope to accomplish if elected another 4 years?
Well, I hope I've just been talking about it.
Sure.
Yes,
Yep.
I do hope to make some headway on this issue of the bonding. I do hope to make some headway on an attitude and practice of really focusing primarily on the livability of our neighborhoods, not on getting people through the city, but getting people to a city that they want to live in. And I don't want to compromise the livability of the city for ease of driving through it.
Anything else you'd like to add, John?
Probably there's a lot, Steve. Come back and ask me again. There will be other issues coming up. Yeah, there is something I'd like to add, and that has to do with the whole nature of campaigning. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think the best thing we candidates can do is get in front of people like you who are asking us questions, and where we are forced to put together some coherent thoughts and sentences and paragraphs, so that voters will really get a sense of what we're about. The signs, we all put out the signs, but those are just little reminders. The TV spots, we all use the TV, not all of us use TV spots, all of us running at large typically, but they remind people that we're around. They give an encapsulate, a soundbite of our message. But much better for the forums, the neighborhood forums to exist, for work like yours to continue, for the media to continue to cover us, newspapers especially, at some length, talk about our hopes for the city.
I guess it does kind of, one question that comes to mind after we talked a little bit, you're not a partisan guy. You look at the issue versus what the party line is.
There are really kind of two models for this office. One is being the party line guy. It's my responsibility to support the party. That's how the party gets majorities. The other, which I think is more appropriate for a small body, 9 people like ours, and more appropriate for a city like ours, is the one where everybody is expected to be elected for his own abilities, and he's expected to bring to the table his own careful thought process, which will apply for the best interest of the community. So, yeah, I feel it's very much my responsibility to be thinking for myself, and frankly, I hope I can find myself in agreement with the administration. I wish it well because I wish our city well, and I'd like to see the administration lead us forward. I'll do what I can to support it when I can.
Well, John, we appreciate your time this morning.
My pleasure, Steve. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.